You wake up tired, but it's not your body that's exhausted. It's your mind. You replay conversations long after they've ended. You imagine arguments that haven't happened. You feel slighted by things people never meant. You fear losing what you haven't even gained yet. You tell yourself you're strong, but one unexpected message, one criticism, one setback can quietly shake you. You don't break in public. You break in silence. And the worst part? You think you're the only one who feels this fragile. You're not weak. You're undisciplined in a world that trains you to react to everything. And this is where Stoicism begins, not as coldness, not as suppression, but as the art of becoming mentally unbreakable. Today we're going to walk through 10 ways Stoicism transforms you from reactive into unshakable. Not loud, not aggressive, unbreakable. Stoicism is not about becoming emotionless. It is about becoming sovereign. It is a philosophy of emotional control, resilience, discipline, acceptance of reality, and self-command under pressure. It teaches you one fundamental truth that most people never fully internalize. You do not control the world. You control your response to it. Everything else is noise. And when you understand this deeply, not intellectually but internally, something changes. Let's begin. 1. You learn the power of control. What you can accept, what you cannot. Most suffering comes from arguing with reality. You get angry at traffic. You resent someone's personality. You panic about outcomes that haven't happened. Stoicism divides the world into two categories: what is within your control and what is not. Within your control, your judgments, your choices, your effort, your attitude. Outside your control, other people, the past, the weather, reputation, results. When you truly absorb this distinction, your anxiety drops dramatically. You stop wasting emotional energy on what does not belong to you. Imagine someone criticizes you unfairly. Before Stoicism, you replay it all day. You justify yourself. You obsess over how you were perceived. After Stoicism, you ask one question: did I act with integrity? If yes, you move on. If no, you correct yourself. Either way, you remain stable. Unbreakable. 2. You develop emotional mastery instead of emotional suppression. Most people confuse control with repression. Stoicism does not teach you to bury emotions. It teaches you to examine them. When anger rises, you do not explode. You observe it. When jealousy appears, you do not deny it. You question it. What belief is creating this feeling? This creates space between stimulus and response. And in that space, you gain power. Imagine receiving bad news. Instead of spiraling into worst-case scenarios, you pause. You breathe. You choose your interpretation carefully. Emotional mastery is not about feeling less. It's about being ruled by nothing. 3. You become comfortable with discomfort. Modern life worships comfort. Comfortable beds, comfortable opinions, comfortable routines, but comfort weakens your tolerance. Stoicism teaches endurance over comfort. You voluntarily embrace difficulty. Cold showers, hard workouts, silence instead of distraction, discipline instead of impulse. Why? Because if you practice discomfort willingly, you fear it less when it arrives unwillingly, and life will bring discomfort. Breakups, loss, financial pressure, failure. The Stoic is not shocked by hardship. They are prepared, and preparation creates psychological armor. 4. You practice Amor, Fati, loving your fate, not just accepting reality, loving it. Amor Fati means, whatever happens, I choose to see it as necessary, even pain, especially pain. This does not mean you enjoy suffering. It means you refuse to become its victim. You lose a job. You say, good, there is something to learn here. You fail publicly. You say, good, my ego needed refinement. You face rejection. You say, good, now I'm free to pursue what aligns. This shift is radical. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? You ask, how can I use this? And suddenly nothing can truly defeat you, because everything becomes fuel. 5. You stop needing external validation. One of the deepest weaknesses most people carry is invisible. The need to be liked, to be approved, to be praised, to be understood. Stoicism dismantles this dependency. It reminds you that reputation is outside your control. You can act with virtue. You cannot control perception. If you live aligned with your values, the opinions of others lose their grip. You become internally referenced. This creates a quiet confidence, not arrogance. Grounded self-respect. When praise comes, you do not inflate. When criticism comes, you do not collapse. You remain steady. 6. You train self-command under pressure. Pressure reveals character. Most people discover their limits when stress arrives. The Stoic trains for it. You rehearse adversity mentally. You imagine loss. You imagine obstacles. You imagine setbacks, not to dwell in negativity, but to remove surprise. When the mind has already visited a scenario calmly, it reacts less dramatically in reality. Picture being confronted aggressively. Instead of reacting instinctively, you slow down. You choose your tone. You choose your posture. You choose your words. Self-command under pressure is power. It's the difference between reacting and leading. 7. You detach from outcomes and focus on effort. Anxiety thrives on outcomes. Will I succeed? Will they choose me? What if I fail? Stoicism redirects focus. You are responsible for effort, not outcome. You prepare. You act. You give your best. The result is not yours to control. This shift reduces fear dramatically. If you've done everything within your power, what is left to worry about? You become process-driven, not result-obsessed. And process-driven people are far harder to break. 8. You strengthen inner dialogue. Most people are bullied by their own thoughts. You're not enough. You messed up. You'll fail. Stoicism trains rational self-dialogue. You question distortions. Is this thought accurate? Is this within my control? Am I reacting emotionally or rationally? You become both the observer and the guide of your mind. This internal leadership creates stability. When your inner voice becomes disciplined, external chaos loses its power. 9. You reduce fear of loss. Fear of losing status, relationships, money, health. This fear drives fragile behavior. Stoicism practices negative visualization. You reflect on the temporary nature of everything. Not to become morbid, but to cultivate gratitude and readiness. Everything you have is on loan. Knowing this deepens appreciation and paradoxically reduces fear. When you stop clinging, you stop panicking. You enjoy fully. And if loss arrives, you grieve, but you do not shatter. 10. You build inner sovereignty. This is the ultimate transformation. You stop being governed by external conditions. Weather does not dictate your mood. Criticism does not dictate your identity. Failure does not dictate your worth. You become sovereign. Your peace becomes internally generated. This is not indifference. It is freedom. Freedom from being emotionally hijacked by circumstances. Freedom from compulsive reaction. Freedom from fragile ego. And freedom is unbreakable. Now let's speak directly to your life. You live in a world designed to provoke you. Notifications, outrage, comparison, endless commentary. Every day your mind is pulled outward. Stoicism pulls you inward. It asks, who are you when nothing external cooperates? Are you still stable? Are you still disciplined? Are you still calm? Mental unbreakability is not built in comfort. It is built in quiet, repeated acts of self-command. You pause when others rush. You breathe when others panic. You accept when others resist. You endure when others complain. Over time, something subtle happens. Your nervous system steadies. Your reactions slow. Your confidence deepens, not because life is easy, but because you are trained. But the world may still be chaotic. When you stop trying to control everything, you gain control of yourself. When you accept reality, reality loses its power to shock you. When you love your fate, fate becomes your ally. Stoicism does not promise comfort. It promises strength. And strength is quieter than people think. It doesn't shout. It doesn't flex. It simply stands firm. So here is the transformation. Before Stoicism, you are reactive. After Stoicism, you are deliberate. Before Stoicism, you are anxious about outcomes. After Stoicism, you are devoted to effort. Before Stoicism, hardship feels personal. After Stoicism, hardship feels instructional. This is how you become mentally unbreakable, not by eliminating emotion, not by dominating others, but by mastering yourself. And that is the only mastery that lasts. Now let me leave you with something to reflect on. The next time something disrupts your peace, a criticism, a delay, a failure. Pause. Ask yourself, is this truly breaking me? Or is it revealing where I still need discipline? And more importantly, if your mind is the only territory you truly own, are you governing it, or is it governing you? I want to hear your honest answer. Stay with that question. Don't answer it quickly. Let it sit somewhere uncomfortable. Because most people don't lose control in dramatic moments. They lose it in small, invisible ways. A glance at a comment section, a comparison on social media, a delayed response from someone they care about, a minor inconvenience that ruins an entire mood. These are not catastrophic events. They are microscopic fractures, and over time those fractures weaken the structure of the mind. Stoicism rebuilds that structure from the inside. Let's go deeper. There is a silent addiction that modern people carry. The addiction to emotional reaction. Outrage feels powerful. Validation feels intoxicating. Drama feels alive. But reactivity is weakness disguised as intensity. A Stoic understands this. If someone insults you and you explode, they control you. If someone ignores you and you spiral, they control you. If circumstances shift and your mood collapses, the world controls you. Mental unbreakability begins when you recognize this. Anything that can disturb your peace owns a piece of you. And Stoicism is about reclaiming ownership. Let's talk about identity. Most people build their identity on fragile foundations. Career, relationship status, physical appearance, social approval, productivity. When one of these cracks, their sense of self trembles. The Stoic builds identity on character. Character cannot be taken from you. You can lose money. You can lose status. You can lose relationships. You can lose comfort. But you cannot lose integrity unless you surrender it. This is why Stoics appear calm in storms. Their foundation is internal. When your worth is tied to who you are, not what you have, you become far harder to destabilize. Now consider failure. Failure terrifies most people because they interpret it as identity confirmation. I failed becomes I am a failure. Stoicism dismantles that distortion. Failure is an event, not a definition. You control effort. You do not control every variable. If you act with discipline, intention, and courage, then any outcome becomes data, not judgment. Imagine giving everything to a project, and it still doesn't work. Before Stoicism, you collapse emotionally. After Stoicism, you adjust strategically. This shift alone can change your life trajectory. Emotion drains energy. Clarity preserves it. Let's address something uncomfortable. You are not as fragile as you think, but you are more undisciplined than you realize. Fragility often hides inside impulse. Impulse to check your phone. Impulse to defend yourself immediately. Impulse to seek comfort. Impulse to quit when motivation dips. Every time you obey impulse without examination, you weaken your authority over yourself. Self-command is like a muscle. Ignore it and it atrophies. Train it and it stabilizes your entire life. Stoicism is daily training. It is asking, is this action aligned with my highest character? Is this reaction necessary? Is this emotion useful? And sometimes the most powerful response is silence, not passive silence. Intentional silence. Let's speak about anxiety. Anxiety is often projection. You suffer in advance for events that may never occur. Stoicism brings you back to the present. Right now, in this moment, what is actually wrong? Not what might go wrong. Not what could go wrong. What is wrong now? Often the answer is nothing catastrophic. Your mind creates future pain and experiences it as present reality. The Stoic interrupts that pattern. They narrow focus to immediate responsibility. The next action, the next breath, the next choice. This shrinks overwhelming problems into manageable steps. Mental unbreakability is built in present moments, not imagined disasters. There is also something powerful about accepting mortality. Not obsessively, but honestly, everything ends. Every argument, every possession, every life. This awareness does not make you pessimistic. It makes you precise. You stop wasting energy on trivial disputes. You stop delaying meaningful action. You stop clinging to temporary validation. When you remember that life is limited, your priorities sharpen. And a sharp mind is harder to break. Let's go deeper into Amor, Fati. Loving your fate does not mean passivity. It means alignment. If this moment is here, it belongs. If this challenge appears, it is part of your path. Instead of resisting reality, you cooperate with it. Think of pressure like fire. It can destroy you or refine you. The Stoic chooses refinement. Every insult becomes practice in composure. Every delay becomes practice in patience. Every obstacle becomes practice in creativity. This transforms your relationship with adversity. You stop asking life to be easier. You become stronger. And once you cross that threshold, something extraordinary happens. You no longer fear hardship the same way. Now imagine yourself 5 years from now. Two versions exist. One continues reacting emotionally to every inconvenience, still seeking approval, still fearing outcomes, still avoiding discomfort. The other version trains daily, chooses responses carefully, accepts what cannot be changed, builds discipline quietly, loves fate instead of resenting it. Which version is harder to break? The difference between them is not talent. It is philosophy. It is practice. It is internal governance. Let's speak about sovereignty one more time. Inner sovereignty means your emotional climate is self-regulated. The world can be chaotic, but you are not chaotic. You do not rise and fall with headlines. You do not collapse because someone misunderstands you. You do not inflate because someone praises you. You remain centered. Calm does not mean weak. Calm under pressure is dominance. Not dominance over others, dominance over yourself. And that is the rarest form of strength. Here is something subtle but powerful. When you become mentally unbreakable, you become less reactive and paradoxically more compassionate. Because you are no longer threatened by disagreement, you can listen without defending. You can disagree without hostility. You can lead without ego. Strength without volatility is magnetic. People trust stability, and Stoicism builds it slowly, day by day, choice by choice, reaction by reaction. So let's bring this back to you. Today, something will test you. A message, a delay, a mistake, a criticism. In that moment, you will have two options: react automatically or pause and choose deliberately. That pause is where Stoicism lives. That pause is where unbreakability begins. And over time, those pauses compound. They build a mind that does not fracture easily, a mind that does not panic under uncertainty, a mind that can endure discomfort without losing identity, a mind that remains sovereign. So I'll leave you with this. If your peace depends on everything going your way, how stable is your peace? And if true strength is the ability to remain steady when nothing cooperates, what small reaction today will you choose to master instead of obey? I want you to think carefully, because becoming mentally unbreakable does not start tomorrow. It starts in the very next moment you are tested. And that moment is closer than you think. There is one more layer most people never examine. They want to be strong, but they secretly negotiate with discomfort. I'll stay calm unless they disrespect me. I'll be disciplined unless I'm too tired. I'll accept reality unless it ruins my plans. This is conditional strength, and conditional strength breaks. Stoicism removes the conditions. It asks you to decide in advance who you are going to be, regardless of circumstance. Not when it's convenient, not when you feel inspired, not when others behave well, but always. This is where mental unbreakability matures. Let's talk about ego. Ego is fragile because it constantly compares. Who's ahead of me? Who's judging me? Who's better than me? Who noticed me? The ego lives in measurement. Stoicism lives in alignment. Instead of asking, how do I look? You ask, am I acting in accordance with my principles? When you measure yourself by virtue instead of comparison, something liberating happens. You stop competing in arenas that drain you. You stop chasing approval from people who are not aligned with your values. You stop exhausting yourself proving worth. Your energy consolidates, and consolidated energy creates resilience. There is also the discipline of perception. Most events are neutral. It is your interpretation that creates suffering. Traffic is neutral. Silence from someone is neutral. A mistake is neutral. A setback is neutral. Your mind labels them. This is unfair. This is rejection. This is humiliation. This is disaster. The Stoic trains perception. Before reacting, you ask, what else could this mean? Maybe the silence is busyness. Maybe the delay is protection. Maybe the mistake is instruction. Maybe the obstacle is redirection. This doesn't mean you deny difficulty. It means you refuse catastrophic interpretation. And when interpretation stabilizes, emotion stabilizes. Now consider discipline in small things. How you wake up, how you speak, how you respond to inconvenience, how you treat people when you gain nothing from them. Stoicism is not only about surviving tragedy, it is about mastering ordinary moments. The unbreakable mind is built in mundane decisions, choosing patience over irritation, choosing effort over excuses, choosing honesty over convenience, choosing restraint over impulse. These choices seem minor, but they are repetitions, and repetition builds identity. If you repeatedly choose composure, you become composed. If you repeatedly choose courage, you become courageous. Identity is not declared. It is practiced. There is a dangerous myth in modern culture that you must express every emotion immediately to be authentic. Stoicism disagrees. Authenticity is not impulsive expression. It is principled response. If anger rises, you don't owe it obedience. If sadness appears, you don't owe it collapse. If fear emerges, you don't owe it retreat. You acknowledge the emotion. Then you decide. This decision point is sovereignty, and sovereignty creates stability. Let's explore pressure more deeply. When something goes wrong, your nervous system spikes, heart rate increases, breathing shortens, thoughts accelerate. Most people mistake this surge for truth. It feels urgent, so it must be urgent. It feels catastrophic, so it must be catastrophic. The Stoic slows physiology first. Breath steadies, posture straightens, voice lowers. This sends a signal back to the brain. We are not under mortal threat. From there, reasoning returns. When you can regulate your body, you regulate your response. This is not mystical. It is disciplined awareness, and practiced consistently, it makes you formidable under stress. Another shift happens as you grow in Stoicism. You become less dramatic, not less passionate. Less dramatic. You stop narrating your life as tragedy. You stop exaggerating inconvenience. You stop turning small discomfort into identity crises. Life becomes simpler, more precise, more intentional, and simplicity is stable. Drama is exhausting. Precision is sustainable. There is something else, gratitude. Not surface-level gratitude. Deep awareness that this moment, even with its imperfections, is temporary. The Stoic does not cling, but they do appreciate the conversation you're having, the work you're building, the body you inhabit, the time you're given. When gratitude becomes habitual, resentment weakens. And resentment is one of the biggest fractures in the human mind. A resentful person is easily provoked. A grateful person is difficult to disturb. Now imagine this. You lose something significant. A relationship ends. A plan collapses. A goal fails. Before Stoicism, your inner dialogue might say, "This shouldn't have happened. This is unfair. I can't handle this." After Stoicism, your inner voice shifts. "This is painful. And I will endure. This is not permanent. And I remain in control of my character." Pain still exists, but panic diminishes. And when panic diminishes, clarity rises. Clarity is power. There's a quiet confidence that emerges from this practice. It doesn't need to be displayed. It doesn't need validation. It's the confidence that says, "I have survived difficulty before. I have faced discomfort voluntarily. I have disciplined my reactions. I can face what comes." This confidence is not built in theory. It is built in repetition. Every time you choose calm over chaos, every time you accept reality instead of resisting it, every time you act with integrity despite pressure, you reinforce that identity, and eventually, resilience becomes your default setting. Let's bring this to the present moment. Right now, somewhere in your life, there is a situation you are resisting, something you wish were different, something you replay, something you fear, something you resent. What would happen if you applied Stoicism to it fully? If you separated what you control from what you do not? If you chose endurance over avoidance? If you practiced Amor Fati and said, "This belongs in my story"? If you decided that no matter the outcome, your character would remain intact? Would the situation still feel like it's breaking you? Or would it feel like training? That shift, from victim to trainee, changes everything. Mental unbreakability is not hardness. It is flexibility without losing structure. It is strength without aggression. It is calm without passivity. It is discipline without cruelty. You are not trying to eliminate emotion. You are trying to prevent emotion from governing you. You are not trying to control the world. You are mastering the only territory that was ever yours, your mind. So here is the final reflection. When life pressures you, and it will, what do you want to be known for? Reactivity? Fragility? Impulse? Or steadiness? Clarity? Self-command? Be honest with yourself. If a stranger observed your reactions this week, would they describe you as mentally unbreakable or mentally unsettled? There is no shame in the answer, only awareness. And awareness is the first act of strength. So I ask you one last question. When the next challenge arrives, it's not if but when, will it control your state? Or will you demonstrate the sovereignty you've been building? Think carefully, because becoming unbreakable is not about waiting for a dramatic moment. It's about mastering the ordinary ones, and your next ordinary moment is already on its way.